Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brother and sister, welcome back to Islamic Notes channel. Her name was Amanda Reynolds, a beautiful policewoman working in a small town in Texas, United States. She was 28 years old when her life took a remarkable turn. Amanda was known as a disciplined, intelligent, and decisive figure in the police force. She came from a devout Christian family, grew up with conservative values, and believed her religion was the only truth. But who would have thought that behind the uniform she wore every day and her courage in confronting crime, Amanda harbored a deep anxiety. She felt an emptiness in her heart, especially when she witnessed the tragedies around her. Crime, violence, and death. She began to wonder, is life just about working, pursuing a career, and then dying? She longed for answers beyond routine and doctrine. Everything changed when Amanda was given a special assignment, escorting a hijab-wearing woman who was a victim of racial discrimination. The woman was Dr. Aisha Karim, a Muslim lecturer from Egypt who taught at a local university. Amanda initially felt awkward, having grown up with many negative stereotypes about Islam, a religion considered harsh, oppressive to women, and full of violence. But throughout her escort assignment, Amanda began to see a different side of Aisha. The Muslim woman was calm, polite, and graceful in her speech. She never showed any hatred, even though someone had once hit her simply for wearing a hijab. Amanda wondered, how can she be so calm after being hurt like that? One night after a dinner together, due to a long escort assignment, Amanda plucked up the courage to ask, "Aisha, may I ask you something that might be a bit personal?" Aisha smiled warmly. "Of course. What makes you so peaceful, even though your life here is difficult?" Aisha paused for a moment. Then she took a small Quranic book from her bag. "There's a verse from the Koran that I always hold on to when I feel hurt. It's a verse that changed my life too. Let me recite it." Then Aisha read, "Whoever fears Allah, He will make for him a way out and provide for him from sources he never expected." Surah At-Talaq 2-3. Amanda fell silent. Those words, though she didn't fully understand them, felt so piercing to her heart. She asked Aisha to write them down, and that night Amanda searched for the translation. She read the translation over and over again. "Whoever fears Allah, He will make a way for him to get out of every difficulty and will provide for him from sources he never could imagine." Amanda's eyes welled up with tears. For the first time, she felt like she had found a sentence that truly spoke to her. She reflected on her past, all the hardships, the emotional wounds, the unanswered questions, and she felt like the verse was a direct message from God to her. From that night on, Amanda couldn't sleep soundly. She began to learn more about Islam. She read translations of the Quran, watched video lectures, and visited the library. At the same time, she began to question the concepts of the Trinity and salvation in her previous religion. Every time she opened the pages of the Quran, she felt a peace she had never felt before. She read about the oneness of God, about life after death, about heaven and hell, about justice, and about God's infinite mercy. But of course, the search process wasn't easy. She faced a dilemma between her new, slowly growing faith and her deeply ingrained old identity, not to mention the fear of her family and workplace's reactions. Amanda cried for days. She even decided to give up her search. But that verse, Surah At-Talaq 2-3, kept ringing in her mind, as if Allah was calling her slowly but surely. A few months later, Amanda finally made a major life decision. She visited the local mosque, accompanied by Dr. Aisha. There, with tears of emotion and extraordinary serenity, she recited the 2 sentences of the Shahada. "There is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah." At that moment, tears streamed down Amanda's face. She felt as if the burden of her life had suddenly vanished. Her heart felt spacious, calm, and filled with love. Amanda changed her name to Amina, which means woman of peace. She began wearing the hijab, despite the scorn of her colleagues in the police force. Some considered her influenced or traitorous, but Amina didn't care. She continued her work as a police officer with a renewed passion, becoming an upholder of justice who not only upholds the law, but also embodies the values of mercy and love in every step. She became a symbol of a strong and courageous Muslim woman in a world still full of prejudice. Amina is now active in her city's Muslim community. She is frequently invited to speak about her experiences and assist other converts in their search for Islam. She also contributes to interfaith dialogue, hoping to erase the negative stigma against Islam that persists in American society. Amina's decision to convert to Islam was certainly not easily accepted by her family. When she first told her mother over the phone, the initially warm atmosphere turned cold. "What do you mean, you've converted to Islam? Amanda, you're joking, right?" Her mother's voice trembled. "I'm serious, Mom. I've thought it through. I feel more at peace than ever," Amina replied carefully. However, what she received wasn't a virtual hug or support, but anger and disappointment. Her father even refused to speak to her for weeks. To them, Amanda's, now Amina's, decision was seen as a betrayal of their family and their faith. But Amina didn't respond to anger with anger. She learned from the Koran and the example of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, that gentleness is far stronger than harshness. She continued to show her affection to her family, even though she was often ignored. She sent them food, letters, and small gifts she lovingly selected. Years later, slowly but surely, Amina's mother began to open her heart again. She saw that her daughter remained a good woman, even calmer, more compassionate, and more patient than before. One day her mother said in a hoarse voice, "You've changed into a better person. Maybe God has indeed guided you." That was the moment that shook Amina the most. Not because her mother accepted Islam, but because she was finally no longer considered an enemy by the person she loved most. Being a hijab-wearing policewoman in America was no easy feat. Every day, Amina had to face cynical stares, whispers from colleagues, and even direct comments like, "Why do you wear a headscarf? Aren't you afraid of looking like an extremist?" But Amina didn't waver. She knew that Islam wasn't about what people thought, but about the relationship between herself and Allah. She continued to carry out her duties with the utmost professionalism, even better than before. She set an example because she was never corrupt, not easily provoked, and always acted justly. One of the captains in her office, who was initially very resistant, finally admitted, "I don't understand your religion, Amina, but I know you're one of the best police officers I've ever had." Amina didn't become a Muslim woman who forced her beliefs on others. She chose the path of dawah through morals and example. In every interaction, she demonstrated Islamic values such as honesty, compassion, and steadfastness of principle. She began to be frequently invited to schools, government institutions, and even churches to explain Islam from her personal perspective as a convert and law enforcement officer. She talked about how Islam is not as portrayed in the media, about the beauty of night prayer, the profound meaning of the hijab, and how a single verse can guide a lost soul back to the path of light. At an interfaith dialogue event, a pastor asked, "If you could go back in time, would you choose to remain a Christian?" Amina smiled. "No, because Islam didn't make me hate my past. Instead, it showed me that there is a fuller, more meaningful life, and I'm grateful that Allah brought me here." Amina's story began to spread within the Muslim community in America and abroad. Many young women, both Muslim and non-Muslim, found her inspiring. She received hundreds of emails from people who felt empowered by her story. One letter came from a teenage girl in Canada who wanted to wear the hijab but was afraid of being ridiculed by her peers. Amina wrote a long reply, offering empathetic and encouraging advice. Wearing the hijab isn't about covering up your beauty, but about shining your soul. She also started a YouTube channel to share her experiences as a Muslim woman in Western society. She discusses topics such as why I chose Islam, my family's reaction when I converted to Islam, how to be a Muslim woman in a world full of prejudice. With a soft-spoken yet firm voice, she answers the most difficult questions with honesty and wisdom. Many cry watching her videos. Many people have also become interested in reading the Quran because of her story. Now, every time Amina opens a mushaf, Quran, she always pauses on the page containing Surah At-Talaq, verses 2 to 3. She remembers the night she first heard that verse. She realized that her life had changed forever because of one word from God. Whoever fears Allah, He will make for him a way out. That was the way out that Allah gave to the Amanda of the past, who has now become Amina. A way out of confusion, from emptiness, from a sense of directionlessness. And that path led her to the light of Islam. After officially embracing Islam, Amina felt like a newborn baby. She realized that becoming a Muslim woman wasn't just about reciting the Shahada or wearing a hijab, but also about changing her soul, mind, and lifestyle. She began learning to read the Koran with proper tajweed. It was difficult at first. The Arabic letters were unfamiliar to her, her tongue was stiff, and her makhraj was unfamiliar. But she didn't give up. Every morning before leaving for work, she took the time to read a verse, albeit slowly. She also attended online Islamic classes taught by a female Islamic teacher from England. She wrote down her favorite Quranic verses in a notebook and then read them again during breaks or in her free time. One verse that particularly touched her after At-Talaq 2 to 3 was, "And indeed we created man and know what his heart whispers to him, and we are closer to him than his jugular vein." Quran, Qaf 16. Amina often meditated on this verse at night after performing the Tahajjud prayer. She felt she was never alone, that Allah was always near, closer than anyone else in her life. Her love for Allah grew deeper. She began keeping a personal journal about her journey in Islam, documenting her anxieties, new lessons, and endless gratitude. On one page she wrote, "I used to love the world and was afraid of losing people. Now I love Allah and am afraid of losing my way to Him." But Amina's journey wasn't always smooth. She faced even more difficult trials when she became widely known on social media. Her popularity as a Muslim convert brought scrutiny, and some accused her of seeking attention or popularity. Amina just wants to go viral. She's not a real Muslim, she's just following a trend. A policewoman wearing a hijab? That's just a publicity stunt. These comments hurt her, especially when they came from fellow Muslims. Amina felt heartbroken. She closed her social media accounts for a month, withdrew and reflected. She asked herself in her prayers, "Oh Allah, have I fallen too deeply in love with this world again? Have I strayed from my original purpose?" That night she read the Quran and came across a verse that seemed to offer a direct answer. Do people think that they will be left to say, "We believe," and they will not be tested? Quran, Al-Ankabut 2. Tears welled up in her eyes. She realized that all the trials she was experiencing were part of Allah's love, not to bring her down, but to strengthen her. She reopened her social media accounts, not to seek popularity, but to continue her dawah, Islamic outreach, with a pure intention, solely for the sake of Allah. Amina's life as a Muslim woman gradually radiated influence around her. A co-worker who initially hated her, a white man named Jason, became interested in Islam through frequent discussions with her. Jason said, "Amina, I used to think Muslims were strict and closed, but you are different. You are loving and just. What made you like this?" Amina simply answered, "The Quran." Jason began reading the Quran. A few months later, he converted to Islam and chose the name Yusuf. Amina wept with emotion upon witnessing the declaration of faith. She realized that guidance belongs to Allah, but sometimes Allah chooses someone to be His intermediary. It wasn't just Yusuf. An elderly neighbor who often complained about the loud call to prayer from Amina's cell phone came one day with a basket of cookies and said, "I don't understand your religion, but I can see the peace in your eyes. May I accompany you to the mosque one day?" Several years after converting to Islam, Amina took a sabbatical from her police job. She decided to embark on a spiritual journey through the Middle East. She visited Egypt, Jordan, and eventually performed Umrah in the Holy Land of Mecca. When she first saw the Kaaba, Amina sobbed. She stood for a long time in front of the house of Allah, touching its walls and praying in English. "Oh Allah, I was just a confused girl in Texas, but you chose me, brought me here. I love you. Guide me until the end of my life." She felt as if her entire life journey had culminated in this point, from doubt to faith, from emptiness to meaning, from Amanda to Amina.